And Art, you're able to get to the share screen button?
I think I can take that. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, Art and Aaron should both be co-hosts. All right.
Oh, very good. So you tell me when, and we'll go ahead. Or I'll wait for you, actually, Drew. Right? You're going to introduce.
Sure. So, I mean, we're ready to go. So we're rolling now. Um, quick intro. Hi, everyone. Thanks for calling in. Seriously, thank you for coming in on a school night and sitting in front of another Zoom session after a long day of a bunch of Zoom sessions. That's really cool of everyone. Also, really cool is Art and Aaron have made time to hang with us tonight. I can only describe it as these guys have perfected the art of talking around DevOps and teaching people how to DevOps. If I try to get any more details, I fear I'm going to mangle it. So I'm just happy you guys are here. I will hand it over officially if you want to take it away, Art.
Okay, great. So I'm Art Moore, president of Clear Systems, and I'm just going to say a few words about the company. Then I'm going to hand it over to Aaron, and I'll tell you a little bit about how the session is going to work. It's a little different. So just real briefly, we've been around the area for a while. Can you see my screen now, by the way?
Yep, crystal clear.
Okay, good. So yeah, we do lean, agile, and business innovation coaching, certification training, IC Agile, if you're familiar with that, international consortium for Agile. And we also do certification for SAFE. And we also do transformation at the organizational level. So I think that's good for a plug for the company. So let me just change it to something else. I'll talk to you about what the format for tonight is going to be. We're going to do a Zoom, we're going to do a Kahoot quiz. It's actually not a quiz, though. It is a selection of poll questions and questions that result in word art as the answer, because they're free form answers up to 20 characters apiece. And the idea is we frame some things to think about as far as the future of DevOps, where it's going. And we want to see what the group has to say about it, actually, and see what our cumulative viewpoint is on those topics. And after each one of the questions, doing it this way, I don't think it's actually going to show a score, as if you're familiar with Kahoot, because you don't get a score for a poll question or a word count question. So what you want to do is, as you are doing, you're getting in. We'll start in a minute here. And what we will do is kick off the question. And I'll start with a couple questions that really just make sure that everybody's oriented to the process. And then I'll hand it over to Aaron, who is my colleague here. And as Drew was saying, we do offer DevOps consulting and training too. We have an IC Agile Foundations of DevOps, which Aaron was the primary author of, and we're just now beginning the process of turning that into online, as we are with all our training, as of course you'd expect. So that's the process. I think we have maybe some more people signing here, but I'm going to go ahead and start the process. Are you all set, Aaron?
I am, Art.
Okay, good. Any questions from the group? Okay, great. So here we go. I turned off that wonderful Kahoot music. So I think you're all experienced Kahoot users, so you know what it will look like on your phone. The answers you want to do. In this case, it may be freeform, so it's going to be freeform in some cases. So you just can type, or on your device, you just have an area where you can type whatever you want. So that's how it'll work here. So let's do a question. So here, just do that as a practice one. Okay, so pretty compelling answer here, actually, that most people think it is very possible to admire people who wear mismatching socks. In fact, this is also to show you a way we're going to do these questions is we will follow them usually by a little bit of research we have done. So there actually is research on this that somebody did in Quora about whether it's right or wrong to do this, right? And their opinion is that there is actually a way that you can mismatch socks so that they look bad. So they don't give you a definitive opinion, but they do say there is a boundary here not to be crossed. So that's socks. So we'll do one more, which will show you how the word cloud works, which is the other kind that we're going to be using. Interesting.
That's unique.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what, oh, brick red. Now I get it. I don't know what green is though, but I guess that's okay. I can always Google it. But the answer is actually consistent. We actually did a little research on this too. Turns out that according to House Beautiful, so it may be houses that they're looking at here, right? That blue is the favorite US color, but green is a close second. So these questions are just to show that these are not actually quiz questions we're going to do. We're going to do polls like we saw, or we're going to do word clouds. So the next one is actually a question about Devops. So we're going to start off and get things going, I believe. Yeah. So here we're going to ask a question. And again, the idea is that we want to sort of do a crowdsourced view of the future. And then we'll see if there are any perspectives that we get from that. So over to Aaron after we get the answer here.
I feel like that's a heavy question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nothing like starting it out with an easy one or not, right? Nice.
At the risk of reading ahead, I feel like this is to show that there are as many definitions as there are people.
Yeah, I think that's literally correct, isn't it? Or almost, anyway.
Very correct.
Yeah.
I
In
like
fact-
safe, small change, but how do you do that when you're in chaos testing?
Well, I think all right, so hey everybody, I'm Aaron, Francesconi. If you shake it a fist, it's easy to say my last name. Anyway, so yeah, all right, I think I'll go ahead and start helping facilitate. So, really just some ground rules, really looking to have conversation, not looking to lecture or anything like that. We're all a bunch of smart folks and really interested in what you guys have to say, and also just to help, have an enjoyable time this evening. And so, yeah, you look at this list and, I think what Patrick was talking about, safe small change and being in chaos mode. I think the idea with DevOps is by putting in systems and things like that, you can mitigate the risk of change a little bit. You know, a lot of it done with testing throughout the whole pipeline. That's a lot of how we keep it safe, right? So I actually kind of like the safe small change because it is, you know, it's incremental in that sense, but I don't know. What do others think?
I think so long as it's easy to get the change out, that's the obvious way. Like safe small changes are fine, but if you can't push them out into prod, like it should be an easy thing to do to get those things pushed out to prod.
When it's new, there's no changes. First time, it's not dev operations first. When you create software, it's dev. Then you have to test it. It's not in production yet. Think about it. When it's in production, small changes are fine. But if it's not in operations yet, then it's dev, honestly. And small changes from dev to test and UAT and then production. But if it's not in production yet, small changes don't help.
Is there any such thing as DevOps when it's not in production yet?
Well, I don't know. I would think that you can do quite a bit before you actually roll out production. You know, you could exercise it through a lot of the environments and things like that. You could make a case for saying you could be incrementally adding small change than doing a larger drop into production. But it's fair. I think that a lot of systems, though, once they do switch over into production, they're more in the DevOps mode, right? When you actually have the operations and you need to be monitoring and need that awareness of what's going on in production. But I don't know, that's a good point.
Well, it very much becomes real for me when I get that first live critical mission customer on the system. And then it might as well be 1 million users because that one user can give me just as much grief as anybody else if I don't get it right.
Absolutely. All right. So Art, do you want to switch to the next one? Because this was kind of just the warm up.
Yeah, I think with this one, I think there's a little research that comes next.
Is it? All right.
I'm having a little bandwidth problem here. I'm going to turn off my video.
Okay.
So this actually relates to a meetup that we did. Actually, it was Aaron and I who did this earlier. And some of you may have been there, where we actually asked this very question. It was almost the whole subject of the meetup. And same thing happened. We got even more answers than we did today. And that overall, though, they did converge because we had them all posted. That was what Patrick was referring to earlier. Created a lot of post-its and then grouped them, right? Did affinity analysis on them. And that and a search of the network, of the internet, really did seem to say that the ones that fell out as being the most consistent were about integrating DevOps and ops. Very simple, just that simple statement, right? Or on the other end, about it being about the whole mindset of lean systems and applying it to the entire value stream. So it went on both extremes, and both of those extremes were popular. It was just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I would have put that Art if I had more than 20 characters.
Yeah.
That was totally going to be my answer.
Yeah, I had that one. I just couldn't work it
Yeah,
in.
that's what you were trying to say. I know.
Yeah. All right. So are we up to the next question?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, here we go. So what will be the largest force in the evolution of DevOps in the next few years?
I had fun with mine.
If we got a joker in the crowd.
That's why managers think about this.
All right, so definitely focus on AI, automation. Not sure what we mean by the easy button, but
Oh,
that
that was my favorite.
moving up.
That was mine. The easy button. Managers think about this.
I remember that you brought that up with the last one when we were together. But do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Managers think about this. It's the easy button, DevOps. That's all they think about it. Because changes, small changes, yes, DevOps works for small changes. And it's in production. When you get into production, that's the value. That's the value. Before that, it's not the value.
Okay. I can see what you mean there. That's cool. And I would agree. That's kind of, managers do try to want to simplify the world a little bit.
Well, it's a good thing at the end of the line to have that pull from managers saying, making an easy button. But I think really the force in driving the evolution has got to be back toward the AI and the machine learning and so forth, their automations and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so when I look at this, like some of this list, right, when we look at future DevOps and whatnot, cloud is already here. Not that that's not, I think people are going to continue to move towards cloud if they're not already. The AI, I think it probably, like I actually put AI, and I think somebody put AI and machine learning. I actually think we'll be closer to machine learning. Because AI is probably a little bit high in the sky a little bit. I don't know how much intelligence there'll be yet there, but definitely machine learning and looking at least what I think is there'll be a lot of looking at events and the system learning how to mitigate and to do predictive analytics and be able to mitigate any sort of events in the operation space. In the development or in the testing space, I don't know how much machine learning, maybe machine learning in the testing more so than the development, of course, but I don't know. Anybody else have some thoughts here on this one?
I would just say on the development side, if you look at what AWS is doing, for example, with their code products, that they're doing a lot of machine learning on things that they actually have the millions and gazillions of lines of code they've written in the past that will tee up coding practices yourself. So they have mistakes that were made elsewhere. It will actually smart enough to run through your code and determine whether or not you've done something that's highly inefficient or error prone or that kind of thing. So I think machine learning has a significant spot to play, and I think we're even seeing it today in products like the stuff that AWS just put out.
When you can explain AI to management, then yes, it would work. But if you cannot explain AI to customers, it's going to be a problem. Because someone has to tell them how it works. And right now, that's a problem for AI. Most of the time when you put something up, managers want to understand it. And months go away explaining this stuff sometimes.
I'm wondering, I'm one of those manager folks, and I'm pushing this in our environments. So I'm wondering how localized that problem might actually be.
Small changes
because we use AI for things like determining the risk of something happening in the future. Even products like Elasticsearch now have ability to run machine learning models and be able to detect anomalies that you may have not been able to detect by the human eye, but there was something in the previous data stream that we didn't catch that turned out to be a repetitive thing that ultimately led to an outage. So it seems like there's a lot in place today, and I suspect that quite a few managers are actually pushing it, not just waiting for it to be explained to them.
Yes, I agree with that.
I would think that less sophisticated managers technically like buzzwords. So DevOps, they probably don't even really understand DevOps. They think they're doing it. They may not be. The cloud, they're using virtual machines. They're not really using cloud solutions necessarily. Some projects, they're getting less reliability because they're not leveraging the platforms. So it will vary by manager, but I think there has to be marketing and buzzwords for those types of people to make them comfortable with the decision to go and embrace them.
On mute. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Moving ahead.
Yeah, guess we're moving on.
I had some brilliant comment, Art, and then you go and do me like that. Oh. Go ahead, Art. Tell us what the research
I
says.
thought that was what you were telling me to do.
Oh no,
We need to perfect our code.
You're good.
Welcome to Zoom.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I can tell you this research. We researched it a bit, and we did find this. At least what Gartner says, and a number of other sources actually, that AI ops, to coin yet another on the stack, and digital experience monitoring tools to monitor applications infrastructure will rise from 5 to 30% in terms of investment. So there you go, from Gartner. So it's true. There it is.
Yeah, and I guess the point that I was going to make before we head on is that I do think machine learning / AI, I think AI is closer to buzzword than actual. Machine learning certainly is viable. But I do think that, yeah, managers do tend to, it simplifies pretty complex concepts, right? So if we call it AI, even though they understand that the machine is making, at least I hope they understand that the machine is smart enough to make decisions without human intervention, but you never know. You know what they say about assumptions. So, all right, let's go to the next one, Art.
Okay.
The next question, just more of an opinion question, but so as far as AI or machine learning, I mean, we're kind of getting to a point where, I mean, it's usually a feature on top of a product, but do you think products or platforms the differentiator will be their machine learning as opposed to it just being a separate feature? Because I'm sure they're not all the same,
I think so. Like, I think that eventually it'll be which ones can actually do what you need them to do better. And if AI helps that, I think that will be a differentiator. I know in the the IRS where I work, if we had products that could do our job a bit better, and if the difference was their AI engine, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this one, I didn't get a chance to do this one, but anyway, so the DevOps practice that first comes to mind is one that will grow in support of increasing systems resiliency. So we got testing, feedback, trusted automation, and prototyping. Okay, so whoever answered trusted automation, I kind of want to hear what you're thinking there.
Trusted automation is the same thought of using AI in it. Automation, faster, trusted, safe, all those qualities need to be automated.
Well, and like where I thought you were headed with it too, which I think you are, when I heard trusted, let's say you had a system that was doing, I don't know, life support or something
blocks in automation. Some managers want to block automation. That you have to wait for them to unblock it for an email or something like that, and they block it because they don't trust it. When managers trust the automation, And if AI is in there and it helps them to trust it better, great. But most of the managers right now that I see, they don't trust it. If they have the power, they're going to hold it. And that's culture. That is culture.
Yeah, well, I can definitely see that, right? I think, I know that some places where I've seen where they purposely build in phase gates that would prevent the system from moving forward with certain actions, like say a deployment. They want to wait till they give the go ahead to let it push to production. So I can see, at least I think that's what I think you're saying.
Yeah.
What about prototyping?
Yeah, I'll take the blame for that one. That was like, to me, a resilient system is one that. So when I saw increasing system resiliency, it said to me, like, feel free to try different things out. It becomes easy to keep a system up and running. So if it's easy to recover from disaster, if it's easy, like if it's easy to fix it when it breaks, that means it's going to be easier to try out new ideas.
Right.
Well, I'm thinking about you talk about it when it fails, rollbacks. It has to be in the system for automation to roll it
Sure.
back if it fails. If it's rejected, roll it back, please.
Along those lines.
Okay. Absolutely. And somebody had testing. What are we thinking there? Anybody
Oh,
want?
I put testing because, you can automate an AI test, and you can do, you take machine learning into testing, and that brings about the resiliency if you know that it all tested well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that testing is the way to validate quality for sure.
Bounds testing, I agree, but AI testing without a use case is not what my thoughts are. Because the use case for the client, that's what you have to test. But AI doesn't help that.
But
If you were looking at testing as like a
Bounds testing, I agree with.
Yeah,
Outliers.
after exploratory testing, there's a lot of space there for AI, right? Because you're just trying to find crap in exploratory. So
That'd be fine.
yeah,
That's the idea for bounds testing for me. If they can find a crack in it, then find it. Yes, that's great.
yeah.
But when you find it, you have to test it all the time then.
But could you also have a system where it's continuously learning from the training set? You start with a manual test case, and slowly it learns all the process of the next time around. It's able to take it another step further.
Recording, yes, if you record it, that's fine. Without a recording for that, AI doesn't understand it.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that we're looking at pretty heavily within this testing space is RPA, right? And it's not quite, recording like we're doing using AI. It's more or less basically it's capturing movements on the screen and then, intelligently analyzing the screen and figuring out what inputs we can put in it. But I do think there's quite a bit of space to improve testing an awful lot. I don't know, I'm not, I don't know how AI gets there with testing other than maybe exploratory, but I mean, it's certainly, I'm sure people are out there working on it right now.
Large data helps AI. Without large data, small sets of data doesn't help AI. Think about that.
All right. Any other questions before we move to the next one or comments? All right, Art, you're up. What does our research tell us?
Okay. This is like a sports show. You hear those sports programs on the radio where there's the conversation, then there's the guy who comes in to give the color of the research guy. Maybe you don't know that show, but Anyway, that's what I hear sometimes in the morning.
What sports shows are you watching, Art?
These are Tampa Bay folks, so
Sounds like College Bowl.
you may not share their viewpoint. So Gartner says by 2023, 40% of organizations will implement chaos engineering practices, which actually has fingers into all the items you said, I think, on the previous slide, as part of DevOps initiatives, reducing unplanned downtime by 20%. And that by the overall topic here, 60% of organizations will test for system recoverability as part of test automation. I think we scored a home run on this one.
So isn't that, doesn't Netflix have Chaos Monkey? I think they built
Yeah,
it.
they invented it.
Yeah.
That's them.
Yep. So I guess we're probably about 15 years behind, but we'll all be mainstream by then.
There you go.
All right. Okay, let's go to the next Kahoot.
Okay.
Skill set.
My answer is very simple, sorry.
Oops, I typed it into a text window. It went off to somebody else.
Okay.
All right. Planning, code, continuous learning. All right, let's see. Okay, who put in, let's hear about team building being the skill set needed for the future of DevOps.
No one person has all of the answers. The days of the one guy who gets everything done and who's widely regarded and esteemed, I think that's migrated from the one guy, like go to Kevin. He knows all the things. That guy's a liability now. Nobody wants a guy who knows all the things because he's got a bust factor of 0. So the real key to success is going to be team building, convincing everybody to work together to drive towards that shared common goal.
If it's a common goal, learn from Kevin is my thought. Everybody is everybody's teammate for Kevin. If he knows everything, disseminate. If Kevin doesn't want to disseminate his information, the team may come together, but they will not be very fast. Learn from Kevin. Kevin's the trainer then.
Yes, and that is the other part of this, of the team building. Really, I had meant as a, I mean, you can swap it out with a number of phrases, right? Soft skills, human interaction, convincing Kevin to open up and to interact with humans and teach the rest of the team can also be a challenge depending on how ornery he is.
Well, most of the time when I put this, I wrote code, honestly. When I said that, everybody codes. Managers code. If you cannot code, you're not the team. Everybody has to code. SQL, Java, JavaScript, Go. I don't care what it is, scripts. So you have to work on the system. Everybody works on the system.
What about the manager with the easy button? No, he's not coding. He doesn't
He has to work on the code. It's not the easy button for him. He's not in the team. That's the difference. It's about culture. If everybody working for the software to deliver it, managers are a liability sometimes. And he has to understand that sometimes. He has the money. Most of the time, the manager has the money.
Yeah, I think like I don't know. I see code is difficult because I don't think everybody can learn to code, right? I get where you're coming. They need to have the base knowledge and be able to understand it, but I'm just pushing back a little bit on that. I don't know. I think that, to me, I would think we were moving away from coding. The further we go along, the more abstract you're going to abstract away code from people. That your systems are going to be intelligent enough that you can kind of describe what you need to do, and maybe it's more pseudocode or maybe it's syntax. But I just don't. I don't know. I mean,
I like your thoughts right now for that. When you think about the cloud, OpenShift like this, operators and things like that, delivering software, it's faster. So are you just putting on a button and it's there? And so, yes, I didn't create cloud, but I use it. I don't create a cloud, but you have to understand it, yes. But sometimes you have to create code. And sometimes you have to figure out what did not work. And if you don't know how the servers work, it's going to be a problem. And then you have to talk to someone else. Kevin, again.
Well, I feel like, if I may, that a big part of DevOps is the fact that everybody does have a different skill set, and the integration and the team building is making sure you have people to fill the gaps that other people don't have. So if you have somebody that is just starting to code and is feeling a little insecure, they could put them on documentation, you can put them on testing, and that way you learn together, and you always have somebody that can do the things that you can't do. And I think that's kind of where it all started. And yeah, learning a little bit of what everybody else is doing, but also being able to take advantage of everybody's different strengths. So that's where I'm coming from.
Well, and I put continuous learning. I put that out there because I do believe, and it's probably on the softer skill side, right, along with team building and whatnot. But the way I'm looking at it is that, as we all see, everything is changing so rapidly that the ability to reinvent yourself or to upskill, and maybe that's where I think that we're trying to get with code, is just people have to be able to upskill to be able to move into that, in the future. We all know we're going to need to learn AI, or we're going to need to learn something like cloud, and it's going to continually be changing. And so that to me is why I put continuous learning. But I don't know. I guess I'm more on the, as we evolve our technology, it's probably going to get more towards the enabling the non-technical to do technical work. But Art, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I actually like the fact that both those aspects showed up in general. The idea that there is going to be, we're going to do the Vulcan mind meld with Kevin, because there aren't going to be Kevins around anymore. There's going to be a lot of people because there's a lot of things to know, and that team building is the other side of that. And I thought it was very nice the way these things complemented each other in terms of coverage.
Oh. All right, well, let's go to the next Kahoot. Oh, you got research first.
Yeah, actually, and they matched up pretty well. And as they say in the sports shows, thanks, Aaron. So they say the adoption of cloud native architecture and programmable infrastructure is just going to blow up in the area of lack of software engineering skills that inhibit the software-defined infrastructure, and that by 2023, 60% of, they use I&O, infrastructure and operations. Leaders will invest in that area. But I couldn't type in the rest because that's as long as you get. So pretty much matching up with what is in the word cloud in terms of building skills in the software engineering space is a major concern.
Very cool. All right. So the wisdom of the crowd is proving strong. So let's see what our next Kahoot is.
All right.
I mean, that just puts me right in the in the crosshairs. How can I say I didn't put that one in there?
Yep, there it is.
All right. So if you're gonna invest, you're gonna invest in either paying Drew more money or a COVID vaccine. So that's awesome. All right. Okay, presentation skills. Nice. All right, so GitOps. That's one we haven't had somebody talk about yet. Who wants to talk about GitOps? Why GitOps?
I put that in there. So I work for SSA. So we see the vast amounts of projects and repositories we're trying to support, over 8,000 of them. So we are migrating towards a GitOps infrastructure so that everything can be, all the configuration is version controlled. So there's some sort of stability in the configuration management area. So we are actually investing a lot into GitOps. And so it's not something that I'm projecting out there, but rather it's happening right now. And so we are slowly, changing our CI/CD pipeline to leverage more of the GitOps principles, and we're bringing in things like Helm chart, Argo CD into the mix as some of the portfolio tools to consider.
And I know we are looking at GitOps pretty strongly too. Anybody else looking at GitOps?
12 factors of applications. Think about that when you talk about GitOps, because it's when you change the target, you have to change your thoughts. And GitOps changes it as well. When they come together, it's great. Microservices, think about that. 12 factors of applications. And when you talk about that, that's when you think about this. And GitOps about containerization and cloud. You have to change your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, though, is there anything that people are saying invest in training and whatnot? But, to your point, it does kind of change the mindset a little bit. And I just was curious if others had, if they were thinking along that lines as well, or if it's just the latest buzzword.
Well, training is not a buzzword. It's been around for centuries, I suppose. But yeah, if you're going to change thoughts, you're going to probably be more effective doing it through training. And training is something that could be invested in the coming year, because so many people are at home and could put a little time in perhaps to training if in fact they haven't got enough going on in their lives and they're getting stir crazy.
No, that's a good point.
So for me, I mean, I never had heard of GitOps before, but I was just looking at it a little bit, and it goes back to what was in my mind in the previous question, which is that, it kind of like it doesn't exist. You don't have it. It's not in source control with an easy button, so to speak, right? And that almost seems like what is being talked about here. It's like everything you need to build, needs to be in source control. version and able to, be easily built or used.
Well, SSL cannot be in that, but it has to be managed. Correct?
SSL?
Certificates.
Right. You got to put your certificate somewhere secure, right?
Yes, but you have to manage them as well.
Right, but the code that manages them.
GitOps doesn't help.
What's that?
GitOps doesn't help that.
Well, I don't know about GitOps really, but I mean, I would think that the code to manage and deploy those certs, and even to encrypt them and store them where they belong, would be somewhere in source control.
Yeah, GitOps, at least maybe we need a common definition, but GitOps, from what I understand, is about being able to represent or reproduce all of your environment from your source code. And so, you could say the pipeline maybe of SSL, but I would agree, you should be able to store your certificate. You should be able to automate the installation of said certificate. You should be able to automate the creation of a database to allow for authentication. I mean, I think that's where at least the concept of GitOps is headed. But, there's probably things, nothing's perfect. I mean, I'm sure there is an 80-20 rule here where there's not everything could be stored. So to that point, yes, but I would think that the end goal, though, is to be able to recreate your environment every time the same way using your source code repository.
To a point, yes, I agree with that thought.
Okay. All right, and Patrick, good job on the training one. Still thinking the COVID vaccine's the way to go this next year.
Yeah.
Except the government's going to be giving it away for free, so there you go, right?
And Drew will be selling it and making a fortune.
Hey, I'm looking forward to mind control. It's going to be nice.
That helped me a lot.
That's right.
I want my mind back, honestly.
Right. Okay. So let's see what the research says. Art.
Okay, Aaron, here is the research on this topic. And you all were in the zone. This one, we didn't have a single thing. There's a lot of things coming up in the literature, no single theme, but pretty much all were saying those areas, many of which you hit on, about security, AI, upskilling, and tooling were usually noted, no matter where you looked. No one single theme came up.
Kind of the usual suspects a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's very interesting, Art.
Okay, Aaron, you.
All right, so let's see. Let's go to the next Kahoot, because these are just a hoot.
Oh my goodness.
Remember to tip your wait staff.
That's right. Ooh. Nice woolly mammoth there, Art.
Yeah, they look like the real thing. I think that was with the new iPhone.
All right. So it looks like a strong plurality of us chose yes, that it would change the software lifecycle as we currently know it. Who wants to describe what they think there? And then we had some no's. So we'll start with the yeses. So whoever put yes, I'm looking at you, Drew. I'm pretty sure it was you.
I maybe Art can corroborate for me. I was actually the dissenting voice. I was the no.
Oh no. All right. Hold on.
I like you, Drew, tonight. I like you, Drew. I'm in the no column.
Appreciate the vote of solidarity, Peter. How come I'm the only one there?
Well, I put a yes, and I took it from the idea as we currently know it, because like was brought up earlier with the easy button and the getting the managers on board and so forth, and getting enough people out there benefiting from what DevOps is heading towards, I came up with the concept that really the low code, no code, instead of everybody learning to seriously code, would bring the software lifecycle to a point where so much of it is machine learned, AI'd, that the users on a broad basis to make it really take off are going to have to, again, not be paying attention to the software that much at all, just the outcome and the results.
Maybe
So,
installing software, yes, life cycle.
there you
You
go.
don't have to install it. Life cycle. Define it first. That's why.
Exactly.
What are you
So-
talking about, honestly? Life cycle. Define that first.
Yep. Because as we currently know, it would be its own word cloud or pole. And then what DevOps will do to that would be, make a new shape and form of it, especially with the IoT world coming on board, where how much software is just so completely embedded into the whole thing with, sensitive to people's intention or touch or motion or whatever, that we just say, look, I don't know, software, wasn't that a thing of the last century? And then the few guys left who are cracking out code late into the evening and making it to the DevOps Columbia meeting once in a while, then we would be the pitiful few who knew what we were doing with the world on our back.
All right, well, let's see what the research says, Art.
Okay, Aaron, here we go. And the brain trusts have some interesting thoughts on this one. This is similar to another question that is coming up. So we'll get two different views in a way. But Forrester in particular on this one is saying that there is no longer the overarching life cycle from left to right, sort of a microservice view of things in a way with regard to governance will decline at the macro level. So the semi-autonomous teams do their own plan, build, run life cycles, and they leverage coordination services if needed. Leaves a lot unsaid there, but that's what they have as their perspective.
So it sounds, I see Paul raising his hand. I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead, Paul.
No, I was just going to say quickly, this is why your data guy put event streaming a few questions back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like at the individual level, if we're talking about microservices, like particular microservices may have a life cycle, like they will eventually sunset. But at the higher level, the user experience, that is the sum of said microservices, they're saying, just kind of slowly transforms and evolves over time, and this never actually goes away. Is that what they're trying to touch on?
I think so. And I think we have another question later on with some research that touches, kind of overlaps with this. And you'll see what I mean and see if you think it touches on that area.
Okay.
I think the life cycle will honestly change because teams, DevOps teams, value stream teams, the team will change when they deliver it, when they create it, and in production, and they own it. When DevOps is there, it'll change the life cycle. Yes.
Okay. Strong consensus.
Agree.
Point.
Yep. All right, so let's go to the next one.
Okay.
Ooh, a poll. This one's hard. Oh, didn't give me a chance to answer.
That was a very fast timer. I guess the true false have fast timers.
All right, so I was gonna say, I was debating in my head between both actually, because I kind of was thinking as maybe snarky, as long as there's marketing, it can be made, DevOps will exist.
I don't know, going on that line is if all you got to do is give them another term, and I mean, they'll drop DevOps like a bad habit.
They'll look at GitOps coming out of nowhere.
Uh-huh.
Microsoft buys it and they repronounce or relabel it GitOps, right?
Yep.
Or DevSecOps.
Yeah. AI ops.
Well,
Data ops, test ops.
I honestly believe DevOps will not go away because it's going to be refined. better. And everybody's thoughts will be the same if it's going to be in, 5 years again.
Yeah, I'd like to think that given enough time, it just slowly transforms into the state of the art. Like in 10-ish years, it's going, you're just not going to survive. If, like right now, I mean, 5 to 10 years ago, it was kind of bleeding edge at the forefront. Here we are today, and it's kind of expected practice, but there are still plenty of groups that are lagging behind. In another 10 years, the groups that are lagging behind will have been subsumed. It's just not going to be there anymore. And it's just going to be the way that we develop software.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, 20, 25 years ago, bare metal, right? You built a server, and then along came something like VMware, and then you built virtual machines. And then after a while, right, Drew? That's a softball pitch, Drew.
Hey, look, I told you I'm trying to keep it down a little in this one. I could pull that thread all night, Aaron.
All right.
DevOps is really only needed, even though it covers most modern situations, is if it's rapidly changing or you need to scale. Like you're looking at mainframes are still around, a lot of legacy systems. I mean, DevOps, I wouldn't argue you need DevOps for those. If they're working just fine the way it is, then, it's not really relevant.
Is anybody on this call working on a mainframe, honestly?
Well, when you go to like a department store and they bring up that little VT100 terminal to enter in your information, or a car rental plate, those things are still living somewhere, right? I mean,
Mainframe is still around and very hard. And people who work on it, it's not going away, honestly.
Yeah, no, we have mainframes right and left.
It's not going away. They're not going to change it, correct?
It's quite a bit of a cost to move away from a mainframe.
If you look at it, they talk about it, but if someone do it and they pay for it and they get it done, they say, no, I would not change it.
Yeah, no, I think it's killing us to try to move away from it. So it'd probably be here for the duration.
Well,
And I
per the
think,
question, will DevOps fade away as a distinct concept? It'll fade away as a distinct concept to the degree that Agile has faded away as a distinct set of values and principles and so forth, and it's just become the buzzword of business.
I think Agile, we're going to, let's steer the car back on the road.
Thank you very much. But what I mean, of course, is when you hear DevOps being used, in the wildest of places, in the vaguest of meanings, then it has faded away as a distinct concept, but it's also become very mainstream and has really affected a lot of what we're doing in the world.
I think we're all kind of saying the same things, is that it will become what you do, right? And it already is what you do. You wouldn't start out building a new company with bare metal. So, all right. Hey, Art.
Aaron, I just want to add one. Aaron, I just want to add one comment, and that is
Okay.
with the mainframe. Going back to the mainframe conversation, I think you're also seeing now Oracle products like Graal VM supporting COBOL as a language set. So I think it's basically, I think we're kind of reinventing the mainframe to go into the cloud arena, and potentially I think there might be a jump where whether you deploy to a mainframe or to a cloud will become agnostic, except it'll still be a product from IBM.
IBM is getting mainframes on the cloud. Yes, they're doing that.
And so, yeah, so I think, you'll see that, ports like Graal VM would allow the transition to happen in a way where in development and so on, you can cut the cost by developing it locally, but in production, it's going into a mainframe, silo.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I was saying, I really don't see the mainframe going away, and these things are cyclical too, client server back to mainframe. We'll see all sorts of movement.
I know people doing C++, C, and assembler. And when you use that on a mainframe, it's very fast. You can't change it.
Tell them to apply for jobs at the IRS. People know assembler language.
Assembler? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's our life. All right, let's go to next. Let's see what the research says, Art.
Okay, Aaron. So Gartner says that as IT transitions to product-centric operating models, the value stream, there is a complementary need for infrastructure operations leaders to organize as a platform team. So they don't exactly answer this, but they say, and this is Forrester, this last part, all such platforms and services are delivered via a product team. When you read the whole text here with these things, what you do start to see, and why this is here, is just that they, in this context, they start to say, well, what the future is are platform teams where they're saying what you guys have been just saying, that it becomes the state of the art, and it's all part of your platform team that's taking care of the whole picture.
Yeah. All right, cahoot us up, Art. We're ready for another one.
I want the record to show I was not the dissenting voice in this one.
All right, let's see what the research says, and then we can have our conversation as to why we all were no. We'll try it a little differently this time.
Good idea. Research on this says that these skills, this is a book that has just come out from O'Reilly, pretty good. These skills will only become more important. Designing and reasoning about distributed systems is hard, and even a well-designed cloud-native application is still inherently complex. As the environment grows, the need for those skills becomes even more pronounced.
Yeah, and I'd agree. They need to pay us more money because it's going to get harder and harder.
Yeah,
so.
The answer is a true question. Not where to invest.
No, I think that's kind of where I was thinking. I don't know if anybody wants to dissent against that, but it seems like it's going to be more abstract and more difficult to kind of piece together solutions.
Every time you say distributed, then more and more microservices, serverless things become and create complexity. Flexibility creates complexity. It's a simple thing to say, but when you think about it, the cloud means it's going faster. Provision it faster. Deliver it faster. But the complexity is going to be larger. The money is going to be larger for the system, not people.
Probably a good point. Dang it.
Sorry.
And I was just thinking, okay, is the pace of emerging technologies going to slow down? I mean, there's so many new things like the last 10, 15 years compared to earlier in my career. So much, especially in the database space, so much stuff has come up. It seems like it's only accelerating. But maybe there's a reason for that, and it is going to slow down. But to me, it seems like the pace of change has just been going crazy.
Yeah.
As the different technologies emerge and it gets more complicated and you have competition, don't they then converge and standardize? And then some of these things become more common knowledge. And so like the standard, the baseline standard is higher, kind of like, academics in schools, like kids learning calculus in 10th grade instead of, over time, people start just learning things earlier because now the starting point is beyond where we had to do before.
Yeah.
In a way, I think that message implies that you are learning everything beneath where that boilerplate is. when the reality is you're leaving it behind. Case in point, it's a novelty that some of Aaron's coworkers are still skilled in assembler. Like we're using these 3rd and 4th gen programming languages, and it's baseline, yes, but that doesn't mean that we mastered assembler and all the boring C and C++. That just means that where we start on the stack is slowly moving up.
Mm,
But I do agree with the sentiment.
Yeah.
good point.
All right. Well, let's move to the next and see if we can. We got 2 or 3 more questions, and I think or 1 more question. It looks like so. All right, and we got 5 and 3. Yes being the predominant one, but not quite perfectly split. Let's go ahead and see what the research says. Art.
Okay, Aaron, the research on this question is that some things will still benefit, same source actually, some things will still benefit from being centralized, that self-service has its limits, and that there needs to be some strong central team building and supporting a DevOps ecosystem. Very general statement, but I think you guys get the picture.
Yeah, so it's basically saying that there still will be a need for centralized DevOps.
Right.
If I read it correctly.
Yep. That's
Anybody disagree or agree?
My view is join or die.
I feel like that's the platform team that was mentioned a couple of questions ago.
Well, it's the delivering,
You're right.
the value stream, the product, the product.
But like, so like that there is a DevOps team is
A value team, not a DevOps team. Because you're a value team, you must be DevOps. Everybody operates as DevOps.
right.
Development and operations.
Fair.
Automate or die, faster or go away.
Yeah. But I mean, to say, like, I just mean to say that the label, oh, I'm on the DevOps team. I mean, if I get my way in 5 years, ain't nobody going to be on the DevOps team. There's going to be a platform team or an ops team or a live squad or whatever. And like the goal, the mission doesn't change very much. Simply the sticker calling them the DevOps team is going to become an anachronism.
There needs to be a quality of DevOps. Therefore, you grade yourself. How much are you doing DevOps? How much have you automated? How fast can you go to production? And the ways that you go through those gates means, are you doing DevOps? It should not be a centralized team. If the team is centralized, then they should be disseminating the practices. They should be solving the problems. They should be included into each team, and therefore they should show the way.
Well, and maybe it's along the lines of if there's a centralized team, maybe it's a pipeline architecture team that focuses on the overarching pipeline and enables that technology stack. Maybe that's what our friends at O'Reilly are really saying.
I mean, otherwise you end up with every small team, 2-pizza team having to solve every problem. They want to leverage work that someone else has done and service that's provided for them. Otherwise, how can they succeed?
Well, the 2-pizza team is not delivering all the software for a large company. The 2-pizza team, maybe they're small part, but it's a product. And that's the value. And that's a small change. And it needs to be automated for a larger ecosystem.
With an easy button.
Yep. Everybody has to give an easy button. It's a goal.
Yep. I get it. Yeah, I would agree. All right, Art, do we have any more Kahoot?
We have one more Kahoot to do. It closes things off, if I recall. So the jury seems to be a little out on this question, you know? This is a good question, I think. It's also one that, okay, so here we go. Word cloud.
The answers come on in.
Bad typing on my part.
Money. No. Northeast, nice. I think we're all kind of getting there. A few jokes in here this time. All right. So, what does the research tell us, Art? We're getting low on time, so we better. It doesn't tell us quantized.
We're losing control here, Aaron. Let's quick go to the research. All right. So we don't have any research on this one.
Tells you that we don't know. No,
I don't know the answer to that. And I left the answers back there. Maybe I can bring them back. I don't think so.
I think we're good.
Transformation of what?
Okay. I think that's the point. You can't very well research something like that.
That's right. All right. Well, I think this has been very lively. I've enjoyed it. Art, do you want to close us out?
Sure. Already did our announcement. We enjoyed it, and we'll be glad to hear if you have any more thoughts about any more questions that we ought to ask, because actually we're experimenting with this too. And if I could just do a little, have a little feedback here about what do you think of this format, because of the age of online socialization, right? Everything needs to be interactive. So what's your reaction to doing things this way, even in meetups?
I like the format. I think it's a really good framework to move the discussion forward and to keep it, to keep it, how do I say keep it relevant without saying keeping it relevant and not drifting off too much. But I think it's good. The one feedback I'm thinking, if there's any dials or knobs, like some of the questions kind of got the jump on some people and not everyone was able to vote on some, but might not even have that option. But I like it.
Okay, great. I think some of the timings, we have control over that. We could fix some of those. Anybody else?
Well, I thought it was very interesting to compare where I thought things were going with where anybody else thought they were going. To me, that's the whole point and value of it. And it gives me a sense of who cares what everybody else's future of DevOps is. I've got an idea of what mine's going to be for the next few days anyway.
Well, to that point, you know, it was interesting to me. I didn't look at these answers that we got from research as the correct answers. That's why we did them as polls and word clouds to begin with, right? It was interesting to me that you validated, in some cases, Gartner and Forrester, rather than them validating your answers. It actually gave me, well, I have other thoughts in that area I won't go into, but that was an interesting insight for myself. So thanks, Drew. So you approved of it. Did anybody else have good things to say about just the approach rather than the topic or anything else? Would you enjoy having more meetups like this, or would you prefer just the other formats, do you think? It's okay if you do. It really is an experiment.
It was fine for me. I liked it. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks very much for doing this.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'd love to hear you from you at info@clearsystems.com, llc.com. Anything else, Drew? That's all from us.
No, that is everything. I appreciate you guys doing this with us. It was a lot of fun. Thank you.
Okay, great. It's fun doing it.
All right. Thanks everyone again for coming out. Stay tuned for updates on what next month is going to be like.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks, Judy.